What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is a fear you have never trained yourself to face? Right now, there is something you are avoiding. A decision, a risk, a conversation. A dream that feels too big. You feel it in your chest when you think about it, that tightness, that hesitation, that quiet voice that says, not yet, not now. Maybe later. And every time you listen to that voice, you feel a small piece of yourself shrink. Fear is subtle. It does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows you images of failure before you even begin. It reminds you of past mistakes. It makes rejection feel fatal. It convinces you that staying where you are is safer than stepping into the unknown. But here is the truth most people never realize. Fear is not the enemy. The story you tell yourself about fear is the enemy. Your brain is built to protect you. Deep inside, your survival system reacts in milliseconds. Before logic speaks, your body already responds. Your heart beats faster, your breath shortens, your muscles tense. This reaction once saved human lives. It helped your ancestors run from real danger. But today, your brain reacts the same way to sending a message, starting a business, speaking your truth, or chasing a dream. Your mind cannot always tell the difference between physical danger and emotional risk, so it treats both as threats. And if you never train it, fear becomes your leader. There is a concept from ancient Japan called Fudoshin, the immovable mind. It was practiced by warriors who understood something powerful. They did not eliminate fear. They trained themselves to remain steady inside it, calm in chaos, focused under pressure, unshaken by doubt. This is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming unmovable by emotion. Science now confirms what these warriors lived by. When you face fear repeatedly, your brain adapts. Neural pathways change. The same situation that once triggered panic begins to feel manageable. This is neuroplasticity. Your brain reshapes itself based on what you consistently do. Avoid fear and you strengthen it. Face fear and you weaken it. Every time you step back, you teach your brain that fear has authority. Every time you step forward, even while shaking, you teach your brain that you are in control. And here is the reward for staying with me until the end of this journey. You will understand that confidence is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. Courage is not something you are born with. It is something you practice. The immovable mind is not reserved for warriors of the past. It is available to you. Imagine waking up without that constant inner hesitation. Imagine making decisions without being paralyzed by what could go wrong. Imagine walking into uncomfortable situations with calm intensity instead of self-doubt. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a trained identity. The brutal mental training that defeats fear begins with one decision: to stop asking, "How do I feel?" and start asking, "What must be done?" Your emotions will always move like waves. But your mind can become the rock they crash against. Fear does not disappear, you outgrow it. And the moment you choose to face it, you begin becoming immovable. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you waited to feel ready before taking action? How many opportunities have passed because you told yourself you needed more confidence, more clarity, more certainty? Readiness is a myth created by fear. The immovable mind is not built by waiting for the right emotion. It is built by acting despite the wrong one. Your brain follows a simple rule: whatever you repeat becomes familiar, and whatever is familiar feels safe. This is why comfort zones feel so powerful. They are not magical. They are just well-rehearsed patterns. The more you avoid discomfort, the more your brain labels avoidance as safety, and the more it labels action as danger. You train this pattern, which means you can retrain it. Fear feels overwhelming because you treat it like a stop sign, but it is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are at the edge of growth. The body reacts. The heart races, thoughts spiral, and instead of interpreting that energy as preparation, you interpret it as proof that you should quit. What if that sensation is not weakness but activation? When your nervous system fires up, it is giving you energy. The same chemical response that fuels panic can fuel performance. Studies show that reframing anxiety as excitement changes outcomes. The body state is similar. The interpretation is different. When you say, "I am excited," instead of "I am scared," performance improves, confidence rises, results change. This is mental training. The warriors who practiced the immovable mind did not silence their heartbeat. They mastered their response to it. They understood that calm is not the absence of intensity. Calm is control within intensity. You must train yourself to pause between stimulus and response. That pause is power. When fear appears, do not react immediately. Breathe slowly. Lengthen the exhale. This tells your nervous system that you are safe. It interrupts the automatic spiral. It gives your rational mind time to return, then move forward anyway. This is brutal because everything inside you will resist. Your mind will create excuses that sound logical. It will say tomorrow is better. It will say you need more preparation. It will say what if you fail? But understand this clearly, those thoughts are not commands, they are habits. And habits can be broken. Every small act of courage rewires you. Speak when you want to stay silent. Start before you feel ready. Volunteer when your instinct says hide. These are not random acts. They are reps, mental repetitions that build psychological strength. Confidence is evidence-based. Your brain looks for proof. When you act despite fear and survive, you collect proof. When you act again and grow, you collect more proof. Eventually, your mind stops arguing because the evidence is undeniable. You begin to trust yourself. The immovable mind is built on self-trust. Trust that you can handle discomfort. Trust that you can recover from failure. Trust that emotions will pass. You do not need fear to disappear. You need proof that you can function with it present. Right now, your future is waiting on one uncomfortable action. Not 10, not 100. One, take it. Let your heart race. Let your voice shake. Let your hands tremble if they must, but move. Because the moment you act while afraid, something shifts inside you. You stop being controlled. You start becoming the one in control, and that is where fear begins to lose its power. Control changes everything. The moment you realize that fear is energy waiting for direction, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your emotions. You start seeing yourself as their commander. And that shift is powerful. Most people try to destroy fear, they try to silence it. They distract themselves, they scroll, they procrastinate, they numb out. But suppression only buries fear alive. It grows in the dark. It returns stronger. The immovable mind does not suppress, it observes. When fear rises, instead of saying, "This is bad," say, "This is information." Notice where it sits in your body. Notice the thoughts it produces. Notice the images it flashes in your mind. When you observe without judgment, you create distance. And distance creates control. Psychologists call this cognitive diffusion. It means separating yourself from your thoughts. Instead of saying, "I am going to fail," you say, "I am having the thought that I might fail." That small shift weakens fear's grip. It reminds you that thoughts are mental events, not predictions carved in stone. You are not your fear, you are the awareness behind it. This awareness is the core of the immovable mind. It is steady. It does not panic, it watches. And from that place you choose your response. Choice is your power. When you act automatically, fear controls you. When you pause, observe, and then act intentionally, you control fear. This is the discipline that separates those who stay stuck from those who rise. And make no mistake, discipline is emotional training. It is not about being harsh. It is about being committed. Committed to acting based on values, not moods. Committed to long-term vision, not short-term comfort. Your brain loves immediate relief. Avoiding a hard task feels good for a moment. Speaking less feels safe for a moment. Delaying action reduces anxiety for a moment. But that relief is temporary, and it reinforces weakness. Long-term strength is built by choosing discomfort now for freedom later. Every time you sit with fear without escaping, you expand your capacity. Capacity is the hidden advantage of strong minds, the ability to hold pressure without collapsing. The ability to stay clear when others panic. The ability to keep moving when doubt gets loud. This capacity is trainable. Start small but be consistent. Do one thing each day that stretches you. One action that makes you slightly uncomfortable. It does not need to be dramatic, it needs to be deliberate. Growth compounds. Small acts repeated daily create massive psychological expansion over time. And as your capacity grows, something unexpected happens. Situations that once felt terrifying begin to feel manageable. Challenges that once froze you begin to energize you. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I grow?" That is transformation. The immovable mind is not rigid, it is resilient. It bends without breaking. It feels without collapsing. It thinks without spiraling. You begin to understand that fear is not a wall, it is a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway is a version of you who is stronger, calmer, and more certain. You are not building bravery. You are building stability. And stability, once earned, cannot be taken from you. Stability becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, power rises. When your mind stops shaking at every challenge, you begin to see clearly. Fear no longer distorts your vision. It no longer exaggerates risk or minimizes your strength. You start responding to reality, not to imagined disasters created by an untrained mind. This clarity changes how you move through the world. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing alignment. You measure decisions not by how safe they feel, but by how true they are to who you want to become. This is where the immovable mind becomes unstoppable. It is anchored in purpose. Purpose is stronger than fear. When you know why you are acting, discomfort becomes easier to tolerate. Research in psychology shows that meaning reduces perceived pain. When people connect their struggle to a deeper reason, they endure longer. They push harder. They recover faster. The mind interprets difficulty differently when it serves something bigger than the moment. So ask yourself, what kind of person are you building? Not what do you want to achieve? Not what do you want to own? Who are you becoming? The answer to that question must be stronger than your fear, because fear will test you. It will show up when the stakes are high. It will whisper when you are about to level up. It will try to convince you that staying small is smart. But small is safe only in the short term. In the long term, small becomes regret. Regret is heavier than fear. Fear is sharp and quick. Regret is slow and constant. It lingers, it echoes. It asks painful questions late at night. What if you had tried? What if you had spoken? What if you had trusted yourself? The immovable mind refuses to live with those questions. It understands that failure is feedback. It understands that embarrassment fades. It understands that rejection does not define identity. But regret carves deep marks that last. When you act with stability, even if the outcome is imperfect, your self-respect grows. And self-respect is fuel. It builds internal authority. You begin to trust your decisions because they are rooted in courage, not avoidance. This is how momentum forms. One brave decision creates strength. That strength supports the next decision. Each action compounds. Your identity shifts from someone who hesitates to someone who executes. From someone who doubts to someone who does. Identity drives behavior more than motivation ever will. If you see yourself as fragile, you will protect yourself from growth. If you see yourself as resilient, you will step toward it. So train your mind not just through action, but through self-definition. Tell yourself the truth. You are capable of handling discomfort. You are capable of learning. You are capable of adapting. Repeat it through action until it becomes undeniable. The immovable mind is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It is quiet confidence, steady breath, clear focus, decisive movement, and as you build this internal strength, something powerful happens. Fear stops being an obstacle and becomes a compass. It points directly at the areas where growth is waiting. Follow it, because on the other side of every fear you confront, there is expansion. And expansion is the path to the life you were meant to live. Expansion becomes your new normal. What once felt impossible now feels demanding but achievable. What once made you freeze now makes you focus. And this is the final shift of the immovable mind. You stop trying to eliminate fear and you start using it as fuel. Fear is no longer the signal to retreat. It is the signal that you are stepping into territory that matters. This is where most people turn back. Not because they are incapable, but because growth feels unfamiliar. And the human brain prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is limiting. Predictability feels safe. Even if it keeps you small. But you are no longer training for safety, you are training for strength. Strength is built through voluntary hardship. When you choose difficult actions on purpose, you increase your tolerance for pressure. Neuroscience shows that controlled stress, faced repeatedly, improves resilience. Your stress response becomes more efficient. Recovery becomes faster. Emotional spikes become shorter. You return to baseline quicker. You become dangerous in the best possible way. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to your old limits, dangerous to the excuses that once controlled you, dangerous to the patterns that kept you average. The immovable mind does not wait for perfect conditions. It creates progress in imperfect ones. It understands that clarity often comes after movement, not before it, so it moves. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief reinforces identity, and identity determines destiny. Right now, you are shaping your identity with every decision. When you avoid, you reinforce the identity of someone who retreats. When you confront, you reinforce the identity of someone who advances. Choose carefully. Because the brutal mental training that defeats fear is not a one-time event. It is daily. It is in the small moments, the moment you wake up and choose discipline over delay. The moment you speak honestly instead of staying silent. The moment you take responsibility instead of blaming circumstances. These moments seem small, but they stack. And over time, stacking small acts of courage builds a fortress inside you. A place that does not collapse under criticism. A place that does not panic under uncertainty. A place that remains steady when life becomes unpredictable. This is Fudoshin, the immovable mind, not a fantasy, not a myth, a trained state of being. You will still feel fear. Your heart will still race. Your mind will still imagine worst-case scenarios, but you will not bow to them. You will breathe, you will observe, you will act. And every time you do, you send a clear message to yourself. I am stronger than this moment. One day you will look back and realize that the fear you once thought was a wall was actually a doorway. And you walked through it, not because you were fearless, but because you were committed. Committed to growth over comfort, committed to purpose over panic, committed to becoming unshakable. That is the reward waiting for you, not a life without challenges, a life where challenges no longer control you. Stand firm, move forward, train your mind until it becomes immovable. And when fear shows up again, as it always will, meet it with steady eyes and a steady breath. Then take the next step anyway. And when you take that step, something irreversible happens. You realize you are no longer negotiating with fear. You are directing it. This is the final evolution of the immovable mind. Fear becomes a companion, not a commander. It walks beside you, but it does not choose your path. You choose, again and again. Understand this deeply. Mastery is not a peak you reach. It is a standard you practice. Every day you wake up, you are given a choice. Drift back into comfort or lean into growth. Blame circumstances or build capacity. React emotionally or respond intentionally. The immovable mind responds. When criticism hits, you do not crumble, you evaluate. When uncertainty appears, you do not panic, you prepare. When opportunity feels intimidating, you do not shrink. You step forward with steady breath and clear intention. This steadiness is earned. It is carved through repetition. It is built in moments no one sees. The early mornings when discipline wins over excuses. The difficult conversations you choose not to avoid. The risks you take knowing the outcome is not guaranteed. That is brutal mental training. It is brutal because it demands responsibility. No one else can build this for you. No one else can think your thoughts or face your fears. You must confront the patterns that kept you safe but small. You must interrupt the habits that once protected you but now limit you. And when you do, you unlock something powerful, internal authority. Internal authority means you trust your own mind under pressure. You trust your preparation. You trust your resilience. You stop seeking constant reassurance from the outside world because you have built stability within. This changes how you walk, how you speak, how you decide. You stop chasing validation. You start chasing alignment. You no longer ask, will they approve? You ask, is this true to who I am becoming? That question is fearless. Not because it removes risk, but because it anchors you in identity. And identity is stronger than emotion. When you see yourself as disciplined, you act disciplined. When you see yourself as resilient, you endure. When you see yourself as unshakable, you stabilize under pressure. So reinforce that identity daily. Remind yourself that discomfort is not danger. It is development. Remind yourself that doubt is not destiny. It is a mental habit. Remind yourself that fear is not a verdict. It is a signal that you are stretching beyond yesterday's limits. Stretch further. There will be moments when you feel tired, moments when progress feels slow, moments when fear tries to return with a louder voice. In those moments, return to your breath. Return to your purpose. Return to the simple decision that started this transformation. Move forward anyway, because the person you are becoming is forged in those exact moments. One day you will stand in a situation that once would have broken you, and you will notice something different. Your heartbeat steady, your mind clear, your posture firm. The chaos outside but calm inside. That is not luck, that is training. The brutal mental training that defeats fear does not make you invincible, it makes you stable, and stability is power. So keep training, keep choosing courage, keep stepping toward what challenges you, build a mind that does not waver, and let the world feel the presence of someone who cannot be moved.